Hi, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the series The Expat. In this episode, I will be joined by Alessandro, who lives in Switzerland. I am Marco. I talk in my channel about life as an expat, life in Amsterdam, travel, and consulting, but also about many other topics. But now, let's give the floor to Alessandro so he can properly introduce himself.
Thanks, Marco, for inviting me. I'm Alessandro. I work in Switzerland since already the end of 2022, so it's almost a year and a half. My background is quite typical. I studied finance in Milan. I had the opportunity to work in a couple of industries, banking, infrastructure. I did a little bit of and then I went into consulting, where I met Marco a couple of years ago.
Lucky you.
And thanks. And during consulting, I was really interested in working abroad. So I had the opportunity to look around after almost 2 years in consulting, and a Switzerland opportunity came up. It was quite interesting, and I decided to move here to do a strategy manager for a big corporation in an intimate apparel. And this
Great.
is it, I think, Marco.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So let's maybe explain a little bit of the rules of today. So we have a quite full agenda and topics to talk about, and Alessandro will be actually the main host or the main presenter because I do not live in Switzerland. As many of you know, I live in the Netherlands, but I wanted to give also a view about living in other countries, and Switzerland is one of the top ones when we talk about expats. So the first bullet point or the first point in the agenda, I would say we have covered it. I had the opportunity to introduce myself quickly. If you want to have more information about my profile, my channel, you can just look at my videos. So you have plenty of them. And also Alessandro gave a good introduction of himself, but we will have also the opportunity to talk more about his life now in Switzerland, and also maybe other questions you have at the end of the episode. And the second point we will talk about is why and how you move to Switzerland. So a little bit about the visa process, but also a little bit about why Alessandro specifically decided to move to the Switzerland. Then we will talk about work and work-life balance. So about salary range, but also how many hours you usually work in Switzerland. Of course, this depends on the type of work you do, but perhaps Alessandro will be giving us an overview on how it works or how it generally works. Then we will talk about a little bit of fun facts or a little bit about, let's say, the fun side of living as an expat in Switzerland. So what is the work-life balance there, and what is the life in general as an expat in Switzerland? Second last point is about any potential language barriers, because living in the Netherlands, I know that the language can be an issue. Here you can survive also without knowing Dutch or being able to speak Dutch, but I want to know also something about Switzerland. And the last point, before giving a few minutes for Q&A on your side, is about the next step on Alessandro's side. So something personal. Do you see yourself going back to Italy? Do you see yourself staying in Switzerland or move to a third country? So Alessandro, if you don't have any question about the agenda, we can then move to the first point in the agenda and so talk about why and how you decided to move to Switzerland, and also maybe give some inputs about if a person wants to come to Switzerland, what is the process?
Absolutely. Well, I was quite interested in working abroad. I wanted to challenge myself with the opportunity to work using English as the main language and work with colleagues with different cultural background. And let's say that Switzerland was not really at top of my mind when thinking about that. I was looking for UK, Spain, and Luxembourg. Some opportunities were there. There were some interviews going on, but my CV arrived to the recruitment office of this employer for which I work now, and was really aggressive in the negotiation. So was definitely an opportunity that I couldn't miss. I was myself a little bit confused. I spoke a lot. I said, I come from banks. I don't speak German. I don't see a good fit for myself with your company. But they assured me that they were an international company and they were interested in my background and way of thinking. So Switzerland became the top option for my career development. Um,
If I
but
may
it's,
interrupt
yeah,
quickly, because we also follow the comments in the chat. And one of the comment raised is about also sharing your LinkedIn profile. Uh, it was pointing out that sharing the LinkedIn of the guest for next episodes, but I would say feel free to say your surname and maybe also share your LinkedIn profile. Just saying your surname, I think people can just search you in LinkedIn.
yeah, and for sure, Marco, maybe you can even put it in the chat since I don't see them, so they can
Oh, that's
help.
great. So I will just
So
type it
yeah,
now. Yeah, go ahead.
it's
Sorry.
so my name is Alessandro Brambilla. So it's the typical surname from Milan. So it was nice for for a moment in my life to live in abroad where they don't know the meaning of the surname. So that was one of the key reasons why I moved out, but we cannot really say it publicly. So yeah, that's why I went there, and I decided to work in Switzerland. In reality, Switzerland is an amazing country for expats. I think the population is around 10 million, and the statistics tells us that I think 20 to 25% of the population is not Swiss. They are coming here to work, so it's full of people with different backgrounds coming from Asia, Europe, US, and it's really interesting. It depends quite a lot based on the canton where you go. I'm working in Aargau canton, that is near Zurich, so it's in the North German part, and the situation is completely different from the French cantons. So, for example, Geneva or Lausanne, or the Italian cantons like Ticino. And this depends a lot based on your interests in the industry in which you want to work. The canton that might be the best fit for you change. And this is something to take into consideration when you want to live in Switzerland. Obviously, you don't need to live in the canton where you want to work. A lot of people, as for example, many of my colleagues like to commute from one canton to the other, or you can even live outside of Switzerland near the border and commute to the office. Sometimes it's possible, sometimes no, depends. In my case, it was not possible, so I had to decide to live in Switzerland.
Is there a big difference, according to you, living in one canton or the other? Also, I'm pointing out at Italy. In Italy, if you compare north of Italy and south of Italy, it's like two different countries. Is the same happening also in Switzerland, or the cantons are pretty much the same from a, let's say, a wealth point of view? I'm not pointing at the language because, of course, it's different language, but from a wealth point of view.
I think that's a really good question. The differences are huge from wealth, language point of view. So when we speak about cantons are split between religion, culture, and wealth. So when you move between one canton and the other, the holidays might change. So you can get more or less days off and could even not coincide between one and the other. The wealth is not evenly spread. The wealth of people and companies change a lot based on the cantons and their politics. Some cantons want to attract companies and will lower the tax rate for companies. Others want to attract people and they will lower the personal income taxes. Um, Even the language change. So, for example, the Swiss German speaking in Aargau canton is completely different from the Swiss German speaking in the central Switzerland. And it's really challenging sometimes even for Swiss people to understand each other based on where they are coming.
Was it hard for you to complete the full process to move to Switzerland, or was it easy?
Well, was mainly done by my company. So when you want to move to Switzerland, if you're white collar, you need to be sponsored by a company. And if you are a Schengen citizen, so coming from the European Union plus few other countries, you get a really good visa that you can renew every 5 years. If you are not from Schengen, you have to renew the visa every year. And if unluckily it happens to you that you are unemployed between the renewals of your visas, you cannot get a new visa and you are kicked out of the country. Or this is a high-level view of what happens if you do not have the job between one visa and the other. After you spend 5 years, you can ask for the permit C, I think. I have currently the B, and the permit C provides you a better, more rights and the possibility to not get taxed on your income, but to pay the taxes only at the end of the year. So Swiss people have this opportunity that it's really interesting to get the full gross salary every month and then pay the taxes at the end of the year.
Interesting. And so, considering we have pretty much covered the first point, maybe we can move to the second point, and then maybe if we have something to talk about more about the first point, we can go back. But moving to the second point, which I think on my side is maybe one of the most interesting thing, is not just about the salary you get. So for sure you get a salary and there is a salary range, but also weight this salary with also the amount of hours you have to work. And if I have to give you two kind of benchmarks, let's think about Italy, where you work many more hours than those that you have agreed in your contract, and compare it with the Nordics, where you work exactly the number of hours you have in your contract. So perhaps you can give us this double view of the salary range, or what is the potential salary you can earn in Switzerland, and the number of hours you should expect to work if you move to Switzerland.
Well, so the standard here, it's 41 hour and 15 minutes a week. So it's 8 hours and 15 minutes a day. And Swiss people are quite peculiar, especially in the German side. They push companies to be allowed to start as early as they can. So you will even find some colleagues starting working at 7. So they can end their day as soon as they can. On the other side, the contracts are flexible in this country. For a not high-level position, tendentially, if you have to work 8 hours and 15 minutes, you will work 8 hours and 15 minutes, not 1 minute more. But for other positions that require more availability, like consulting, or if you are working in, for example, strategy in the company, where sometimes some additional time might be required, they will offer you some compensation. In my case, we agreed on 5 additional days off in my contract in exchange for potential extra hours worked during the year.
Okay, interesting, like bank hours. And about salary range, I know it's a pretty wide question. And also when people ask me how much can I earn in the Netherlands, it's not easy to answer. So maybe we can narrow a little bit it, focusing on the German canton, that is the canton you live. And maybe we can also narrow the question also to a person that is, let's say, maybe a economics background, a graduate, let's say, as a degree, and so is a white collar person, and maybe working for a large corporate. And as maybe, let's say, you can think about giving two different ranges, I don't know, 1 to 5 years, 5 to 15, and think about a little bit how much can he or she earn, and also a little bit maybe about the tax that will be subject to. So for example, if you say you can earn 100K, yes, but what's the level of tax? Is it 50%? Is it lower than 50%? So perhaps give just few information about this. As I said, it's a very wide question. It's a very broad question.
Yeah, so it's not that easy to answer. We will try, especially since if you are working for a lot of years in this country, high chances are that you are Swiss. And Swiss people, more they age and they become more senior, more they ask to reduce their percentage of work. So this is something really peculiar of Switzerland. Usually, when you're young, you start with 100% contract, so it means that you do the full working week. And more you become senior, you tend to want to have more free time. So, in exchange for better position, you don't ask for more money, but to work less. So, these do not help us understand really the dynamics of salaries on the long term. But we can say that if you work in the Swiss German part of Switzerland, you can keep in mind some data. The average salary in Zurich do not matter your age or your experience or which kind of level of instruction you have. It's around 100,000 a year, the gross. Other cantons around Zurich are between 70 to 80,000 a year.
Okay. What is the tax?
Taxation,
Yeah.
taxation depends on many factors. Which is your canton where you live, the town, because these two depend create your tax rate. If you are an active religious person, so do you go to church or not, because in that case you need to pay taxes on that. And if you are or not married, because in case you're married, you join the incomes and pay as like one income merged together, so it has a higher taxation. So Switzerland is one of those funny countries in the world in which you can price love, and this is the amount of extra taxes you pay every year, around 5,000 per couple a year. That's the average love cost in Switzerland. Um, so let's say for if you want to work in Zurich, live in Zurich, let's say that comfortable amount of money that you can target, it's between 100 to 150,000 a year as a long-term target. And on average, if you're a young employer, not going for McKinsey or any prestigious consulting firm or Google or other top employers that are renowned to pay really well but have really low acceptance rates, in those cases, around 75,000, 60,000 to 75,000, it's a good entry salary and can go up to 200,000.
Yeah. Up to
Yeah.
yeah, a lot. But maybe I thought about a more interesting question about this topic. How much do you think a person, let's say a single person, has to earn to have a good life in the German canton? Because I pointed German canton because you live there. So how much do you think, not a decent life? Let's make even more specific. I am a single person. I want to live by myself. I want to live in a nice apartment, not the best one in the center, but like let's say a nice apartment, and a standard nice apartment. I want to go out maybe in the weekends, at least once a week. Go out, maybe have a dinner. I don't want to have issues about commuting or using public transport. I have to do groceries, so sometimes I go out for dinner. How much do you think is the wage I need to have this kind of life?
So if you do not want to live in Zurich, that is the most expensive one,
Yeah.
around 90 to 100,000 a year. So it's around, the gross should be 90,000, around 8,000 a month.
Okay.
It's really good. Obviously, if you want to do that, what you said, plus the saving money and all, living in, I don't know, a modern 65 square meters in Zurich, not too central, but not too outside. Obviously, this amount of money would go up to 140, 150,000 a year.
Okay.
Obviously, if you do not want to save money, uh, I saw people doing that with 95,000. So
Yeah.
it depends.
And so I think we pretty much covered also the second point, and we can maybe move to the next point, which is about, let's say, how fun or not fun, how good, how easy is to also uh, go out, make friends, everything about life in Switzerland, life as an expat, going out, making friends, but also, I don't know, finding the type of experience you look for. So, what do you think about life in Switzerland? I know it's a broad
Well,
question, but maybe you can give your view about somebody asking you, what about your life?
Well, first of all, as an Italian, might be challenging And sometimes you have to say that you feel really sorry because you will go to restaurant at 8 p.m. and it's when they are closing their kitchens. So that's one of the main challenges. I remember once I went out with a friend to work out in Zurich on Wednesday, and we finished the workout at 9 p.m. and it was super challenging to find a restaurant that was still open at 9 p.m. in Zurich. So nightlife, generally speaking, it's about good in big cities, can be even in mid-sized cities, and the main kind of activities will be focused on Fridays and Saturday night. Um, there is plenty of entertainment. You can go to the cinema. Here, the nice thing about Switzerland is that since there are so many languages in the country, a lot of films are directly projected in English. So you don't really need even to go to the big Zurich cinema to see a film in English. You can go even your local cinema in a small town near Zurich. So that's great. Going out for restaurants, obviously you have to pay attention to time when you go because for them could some it happened even once I went for an all you can eat and they told me, oh, we started at 6 but at 6:30 there were not any more clients interested, so we stopped, and where it was only the 7:30, so we were surprised with that. In terms of activities, you can do everything, and it's great, especially because it's full of young people with no budget problems. So sky's the limit. Sometimes I saw people saying, I don't know what to do this weekend, let's go for a long trip in France, or let's take a flight and let's go to Portugal. Organize a couple of days before, because obviously um, with this kind of salaries you can do that, and you will even save up money during the weekend because it's less expensive than during the weekend in Switzerland itself.
And I have maybe a question related to this. So, if I think about Switzerland, I remember once I was in a weekend in the Italian canton, and I said, "What do we do on Sunday?" And I remember they said, "Sunday, everything is closed. So we go to walk in the mountains," or something like that. I remember as a nightmare, I was like, "How is so everything is closed? What are you saying?" Yeah. And he said, "Usually in Switzerland on Sunday, you go to the lake, you go to the mountain, you go." And I said, "Okay, good, but it's not so good. You don't have alternatives." Is it
No, no,
still
it's
this
true.
way?
It's true. There are a couple of secrets to survive. First of all, it's not as strict as in Germany that the supermarkets are closed. So if you forgot to do grocery, you will die of hunger.
Starving.
In Switzerland, the supermarkets in the train station stay open. I was this weekend in Lausanne, no, sorry, in Lucerne, and not only the supermarket in the train station, but even all the restaurants and shops in the train station were open. So clearly, if you need to do some shopping or some grocery, train station are great. And here, let's say that Sunday you should not even clean your apartment. Obviously, if you have a modern house where the insulation is really good, you can do that. The neighbors will not hear you. But clearly, you have to keep it in mind. This is a country that give a lot of importance to allow people to relax and rest. So main activities you can do on Sundays, in winter it's skiing, and in summer is hiking. And they really believe in that. So for this reason, it's funny when you go skiing on the train. We go with the train usually. It's plenty of people with their ski boots and the ski material, all going skiing, and the train brings you up until the start of the ski tracks. So
It's a
it's
little
amazing.
bit scary what you said, that people care a lot about the being silent or these kind of things. Because if I match this with my view or my, let's say, idea of Switzerland, I think about old people angry at people making noises. But maybe it's just me reading what you said in this way.
No, but it's amazing. You have this plus they have a love for techno music and really weird level of partying. So there is so much contradiction. On one side, they love calm, and then on the other, they do these street parades, musical techno parties in which everyone gets wasted. And it's a sort of, you know, allowing people to have their freedom in certain moments, but then trying to keep everything clean, relaxed during the rest of the year. So it's sort of like Netherlands do with
It's
their
interesting.
party.
Yeah, I would say the Netherlands, the difference maybe I would point out between the Netherlands and Switzerland, maybe, but as I said, I never lived there, is that here the average age is quite young. People is quite young. So yeah, I don't think anybody worries about noise. So I had a lot of neighbors doing a lot of parties till late and nobody was calling the police. But probably this is Amsterdam. And if you move to a small city in the Netherlands, the situation is different. But in Amsterdam, also the people living in Amsterdam is young people. Most of my colleagues, once a day, have family. They move outside because they want big houses with gardens and so on. So it's a total different story. But if you live in Amsterdam, I don't think anybody complains about noise. And
Well, if you live in Switzerland, in an old apartment, people can complain if you flush your toilet or if you take a shower after a certain hour. And there's been even a public debate. In this country, they love public debates and they love doing referendum on little things. So they will go and vote, and there are even some cantons that are so small that they don't even go voting like we do in Italy. They go all together in their public square, and then by hands they vote, you know.
like the tribes.
Yeah, and it works. It works for the few cantons, works. And it's really funny because people feel really attached to their canton and their stories. And if you talk to some of them, they will tell you, yeah, I come from Uri canton in central Switzerland and I'm not used to that.
I think I read a few years ago they proposed a law to lower the number of hours to work per week. And the referendum, the people voted no. I think I
And they didn't
remember.
even want to increase the amount of days off, and they
Yeah,
voted no because
yeah.
they are really concerned about the
Competition.
sustainability of their economy because it's a really strange economy. If you think about it, super wealthy country, still producing a lot of things, and it's not common for super wealthy countries to do that. And they have sort of economy based on competing against each other. So the Stadt and Gemeinde, that are the towns, will try to bring companies to them, offering them packages of benefits. For example, you have a big industrial area that is not anymore used, you will convince a big multinational companies to come there, don't pay taxes for 15 years, but they have to build this huge headquarter in the area and employ at least, I don't know, 180 people. And you bring there like a 3 billion net sales company. And
And
it's really interesting.
And do you think so? Maybe also thinking about this point of the culture, the differences, and so on. I was thinking about the language barriers. So, because you live in the German canton, I'm not sure. I don't remember whether you speak German or not. But let's say you don't speak German. Do you think you can survive not just from a working point of view? Because I'm sure there are positions where you can work in English, corporate positions, and there are positions where there is mandatory requirement of German. But I'm thinking, can you survive from a social point of view living in Switzerland without knowing the language, in this case, of the specific canton of German canton, without being able to speak German?
Good question. Well, let's start from the work. You can work without speaking German, like in my case, but obviously the opportunity will be limited. So you have to be conscious about that. When talking about social life, it depends. In general, Swiss people tend to have a really good level of English, especially new young people. If you want to make friends, it's going to be more difficult if you are in an area that is not really a lot international. So, for example, in my case, even if I don't live in Zurich but in Baden, that it's 15, 10 kilometers from Zurich, I chose a town that had quite a lot of white collars that was used to speak English, while the other towns around are on a different kind of level. And if you want to socialize, German is going to be mandatory. But you should never think that language is sufficient to make new friends in this country. Swiss people tend to have already developed their number of friends. The definition of friends in Switzerland is really peculiar. They did a survey, I think, many years ago, and they say how many important friends are in your life to people. And the statistic mapped even by canton, and the average was like 2.3, 2.4 friends. But because they are Gino saying five, and you can understand the level they said in Swiss Germany. Uh, so yeah, they know they already have their friends when you arrive here as a worker, and on average, to become part of their real network of friends, it will take on average 2 years. That is more or less the average duration of an expat in Switzerland. So it's
Wow.
yeah.
So it's quite fun, I would say.
You can have plenty of expat friends. It's super easy to make friendship with other expats because obviously
Yeah, because also
yeah.
they want to make group just that.
Yeah.
And also moving to the next point in the agenda, at looking at your specific case. So looking at where do you see yourself in future? So now it's been some years you have been living in Switzerland. Let's say, do you see yourself long term living there? Do you see yourself going back to Italy? Do you see yourself moving to a third country, so another country? Or do you have no idea? So you can also reply, I haven't thought about it. So,
Well, plans change when market change. So obviously I was really interested to think about moving back to Italy since there was this fiscal benefit of the rientro dei cervelli. Clearly now the rules are different, so it will take another year to have the benefit for me because I will need to be 3 years from in a another country. So when thinking about my career, I look around at my company. I like my company, so it's interesting. But if I have to look around, I will mainly focus myself on high income countries and Switzerland itself for the short term. For the long term, Italy is really interesting. I know really well the dynamics. And if I want to be a little bit more entrepreneur, I think Italy is the right like kindergarten to start playing as an entrepreneur. Otherwise, obviously, Denmark, Norway, Netherlands are really interesting places, and US could be interesting too for language and for corporate development. That really depends on where I want to bring my career. If I want to not to stay in the strategy area or get more operational, and on which opportunity the market offers. So far, I see a slowdown of the economy. So the best thing for me is staying here, accumulate as much experience as I can, and wait the market go up back to roaring high growth rates.
and maybe I'll ask a question that is based on a scenario. I'm Marco. I am a graduate, just graduate. I'm 24 years old. I live in Italy. I want to do an experience abroad. I want to choose a country. Can you tell me one reason why Switzerland could be the right choice beyond just the wealth, and one reason why could not be the right choice? So let's say one pro of Switzerland and one cons. Or if you don't have one per category, you can also say two pros or two cons.
Thanks, Marco. First of all, I think your skin can routine should be reviewed. You don't look 24 at all. But if you think about moving to Switzerland as an entry job, I think it's a great opportunity. This country is one of the countries that is always ranked in the top level of innovation in the world. Even if you don't think about Switzerland as leader of innovation, but they are. They are leading in automation of and robotization, AI, pharma, and many other industries. So it's a great place to learn which are the new leading technologies and trends. They have huge level of investments and they are not worried about paying the right quantity of money for young, interesting talents. On the other side, Switzerland tend to be quite a boring country because you will lose interest in keep growing because even if you stay there and you do what they ask you to do, you will keep growing slowly and get the benefits you want. So probably the life will start being a little bit boring on long term. You will start to have first world problems, being worried about not getting the Rolex you wanted from your dealer or being so much focused on where to spend your second or third big vacation of the year. This is really the kind of problem the Swiss people have. If your car is new enough, or if you should or should not buy a second or third house. So life can get boring quite fast, and uh, this should be taken into consideration, especially since when you start working in Switzerland, salaries are great, but you should not expect to find them everywhere else when you leave with this country.
And maybe before closing this live session about living in Switzerland, do you have any final thoughts you want to share? And if you don't have, no worries. That's totally understandable. It's out of the plan. So, but if you have anything you want to share about how is going in Switzerland, how is your life, or this your maybe recommendation to people who would like to move to Switzerland, feel free to share.
Well, why not? So, if you're interested in moving to Switzerland, there are a couple of things that you should keep in mind. First of all, if you want to come here with a blue collar job, work in a shop, in a restaurant, even coming physically here, speaking to the places, it's a great way to get the job. While if you are a white collar and you want to get a job in Switzerland, it's more complicated, and coming here physically to look for a job will not bring you any value. What will bring value if you had studied in Switzerland, for example, during an abroad semester, or if you get the referral from someone inside the company to get the job. Another thing you have to keep in mind is that when they open a job position, companies cannot really go and immediately look around for someone from abroad. They will look for Swiss people, people with the permit to work in Switzerland already, and if they cannot find anyone within the first months, then they can open the position to people living abroad. And so, when thinking about joining Switzerland, keep this in mind because you might be even the best candidate, but if there is someone that suits the position, they might get sued if they don't hire him and go for you. So think about it. Some alternatives are that you get a job with a company that have an headquarter in Switzerland or a subsidiary in Switzerland and then has to be moved here. There are other even potential alternatives, but getting inside is not that easy. So always try to be differentiated compared to other candidates, have something unique. Otherwise, you need to go for a position that was open for quite a lot, and these potential open up to big risk for your career development because if a position was open for quite a lot, means that it's a difficult position, or the company is not that great, or there are some big problems behind that justify the reason why the position has been kept open for so much. Another great opportunity is consulting. They hire quite a lot and they hire even people coming from abroad due to the fact that they are looking always for so many positions that they cannot even find all them in their own country.
Yeah, the turnover is very high in those companies, so you need always new staff to join. But yeah, so if there is no other question from the chat, and I don't think there is, I'm checking now, I would say that first of all, thanks for joining, Alessandro. I know, first of all, it's good to catch up with a friend, but also it's good to have your view about living in Switzerland because we don't talk too much. So I also got the chance to ask you a question about how is life out there. And secondly, this was the first episode of the series. Is a pilot. Is the first? Is a series live to, and the idea to keep it live is to make it more natural. I don't want to make it a discussion in which you cut pieces and you do it really artificial. So it's the real sharing of the experience by Alessandro, by a person who lives in a certain country. Like I live in the Netherlands, Alessandro lives in Switzerland. So thanks a lot for joining, Ale. And yeah, I know you were the right person for joining the first episode, and thank you a lot for joining.
No worries. I just need really now to run because the restaurant will close only in 20 minutes. So
Don't starve. And if the restaurant's closed, then catch a flight, come to Amsterdam. I tell you, I guarantee you that the restaurant's closed later on. Not too late, sometimes 10. Don't, not too much, not like Italy. But still, you have time to enjoy a dinner. Okay. So thanks
perfect.
a lot. And yeah, have a good evening. Bye bye.
Bye bye.